Good morning. This is Bill from Curious Cars and Auto House of Naples, although not today, on another shitty and muggy Florida Friday. Although I shouldn't say Friday, I should move it ahead a couple days because I don't think this video will come out till next week. I'm a couple of videos behind on editing, at least one. But yeah, here I am. I'm in Peter's yard, and I'm getting ready to do this thing. This is Andrew's Elantra. For those of you who have been following, you know I do stuff for Andrew from time to time. And I just want to take a quick minute to thank you guys for... Honestly, you know, I've noticed, how could I not, that I'm zeroing in on 100,000 subscribers, which people tell me is pretty cool. So I'm just blown away. I really am. I can't believe that some crabby old miserable bastard, you know, railing and gnawing at the cars he tries to review and sell is actually doing okay on YouTube, and people are watching him. So I can't tell you what it means to me to come in to put a video up, to see, you know, the view count rise, and then to read the comments. You know, it's just absolutely humbling, and I love it. I love reading them. I love hearing from you guys, and I just can't appreciate enough. Frankly, it's the only thing I got going for. It's it. I mean, nothing else. I mean, everything, every other part of my life is absolute shit. So thank you guys for being the one bright, shining moment in an otherwise really dreadful existence. It really means an absolute lot. So there it is. I will also say, someone forwarded to me a couple days ago a compilation video. I can't believe this, but some guy out there, and I don't know who, I haven't talked to him, I don't know who he is, could be a her for all I know, although when I look at the YouTube analytics, it doesn't seem like I have a lot of ladies tuning in. But that said, somebody did a compilation video, which I'll link to in the description below. And while it's absolutely horrifying to watch, I did get an absolute laugh out of it, and the fellow who put it together has a gift for editing. He absolutely does. It makes me want to curl up and die somewhere, but a couple of friends of mine said it's great, so thank you to that guy. I appreciate it, and I'm going to put a link to your video in the description below. We'll make that the 100,000 subscriber celebration, if you will, if that's something that needs to be celebrated. So anyway, I digress. We're going to get into this thing right now, and I'm sure this is going to be a short video. I have absolutely no doubts about that. But real quick, weather update. The weather is still... The glasses are fogged up. I'm miserable as can be. The weather that I hate is back in force, and whatever little sign we had of better weather coming is gone. In fact, I've got just this white lump through the glasses, which are all fogged up again. And frankly, I look like I just jumped in a swimming pool, and all I did was take photos of this car. I think Andrew's going to put it up on Cars and Bids or somewhere else, and, you know, try to sell the thing. And God bless him, because I'm not going to say very nice things about it. But anyway, there it is, and I really appreciate everything. There's the weather and the animal update. It's all quiet on the Peter front. I see nothing around here. Didn't have a deer, a goat. There was a rabbit that I saw, but that was only at a great distance. So even the birds have quieted down for the moment, so I feel pretty safe. I've got no issues at all. So let's just jump into this thing. Okay, so we've got this thing. It's an Elantra. I think it's the LX model because it's got power windows. And it does seem to be... I'm kidding. It's not. Okay, it's a Hyundai Equus. Which was an experiment from Hyundai that I think it's safe to say failed, or, you know, maybe it served its purpose, I don't know, but it was, you know, it was meant to be like the release of the Lexus LS 400 back in the early 90s, late 80s, right around 1990. That was a car that Toyota made. They put a Lexus badge on it, which meant absolutely nothing, and decided to go upmarket and start competing against the big flagship cars from Europe, like the S-Class and the 7 Series and that sort of thing. Fast forward a few years, you've got Hyundai, and in I want to say like 07, 08, they came out with a car called the Genesis, and everyone was a little bit blown away at that point because it was meant to compete with the E-Class and the 5 Series and some of the, it was a $40,000 Hyundai, which was unheard of at the time. Well, you know, up in their game, a couple of years later, Hyundai brings out this car, the Equus, which is now going to take it to the big dogs from Europe, the S-Class, the 7, but more importantly, it's going to take it to the Lexus LS. And frankly, that cheers me up a little bit because Lexus, you know, had this thing where they came in and, you know, they're sneakily taking on Mercedes. They don't really have much competition from below. They only have competition from above. And now, finally, along comes this little Korean upstart that's going to take on Lexus. So nice. I appreciate that, and I wish this car had cut more into their market share. But when I say little Korean car, I mean, that's not entirely fair. There is nothing little about Hyundai, and this is something, you know, you can't really even get into Hyundai without talking about its history, and specifically the fellow who started it, a guy named Jung Ju Young. I am terrible at pronunciation, but we're going to go with that. He is a fascinating cat, and he started Hyundai in 1967 or something, Hyundai Motor Corporation, and started building cars for certainly the Korean marketplace, and then branched out from there. Okay, Hyundai is no tiny deal. I mean, this guy had started Hyundai in 1947 to capitalize on the rebuilding of Korea after the Japanese occupation. And despite his roots, he was wildly successful. The guy was born to a dirt poor family. I mean, a very, very poor farming family in what's now North Korea. And he went on to become the richest guy in South Korea. I mean, one of the richest guys in the world. And it's just a fascinating story, but it did not come easy. He tried to leave the farm like a half dozen times. One time he sold one of his dad's cows to get a train ticket. Apparently he felt bad about that because years later he brought 1,000 cows back to North Korea to make up for it, but that's another story. But he kept getting out. Then his dad would track him down, bring him back to the farm, and he'd have to keep going. And every time he did get out to start something up, like geopolitics interfered and screwed him up. Like he went to work in some rice merchant shop, and he was doing well. He got a lot of trust. He was doing all their accounting. The rice merchant take a shine to him, and then the rice merchant got sick, and he gave the store to Mr. Young, and then it didn't work out at all because along come the Japanese and blow the whole thing up, and Koreans couldn't sell rice anymore. So he really did have a shit time of it. But he finally did escape for real after the war, and things got rolling when he settled down. But here's the thing. So in addition to Hyundai, these little cars that you see running around, you know, single moms driving Elantras with one temporary spare on the back doing 112 on the interstate, and you think, wow, you know, something had to replace Buick Regals and Park Avenues from the early 90s for these people to drive. Hyundai is a lot bigger than that. They have a company called Hyundai Heavy Industries, and they make things like, you know, super tankers and cargo ships and aircraft carriers for the military. They make oil rigs, dams, bridges. They are a monster conglomerate. Mr. What the hell was his name again? I always forget, again with the pronunciation, Ju Young. He decided he wanted to be a shipbuilder. This was after his rebuilding efforts, you know, started to hit pay dirt, and he was getting some money. So he just said, okay, I'm going to start building ships. He'd never done anything remotely like that before. So he convinces some buddy of his to give him $10 million. He's going to build him a ship. He doesn't even have shipyards. So he builds the ship and the shipyards at the same time, does a stellar job of it, and delivers the ship like 2 years early while he's building the yards. And after that, they went on to become, you know, the biggest shipbuilder in the entire world. So Hyundai is not really a little concern, and they have all kinds of money, all kinds of clout, and all kinds of power to make stuff happen. So you really have to hand it to them. Oh, God, I tell you what, man. It's really hard to focus and concentrate when you're absolutely dripping. So anyway, there it is. So you've got all of this stuff going on from Hyundai. They're building shit for the military, naval aircraft carriers and destroyers. I'd like to see BMW build an aircraft carrier. I have a feeling that wouldn't work out very well. At a minimum, their oil tankers would leak. There's no question about that. And definitely all the cup holders would break. So again, Hyundai has it going on in some ways that not everybody realizes. They didn't start with cars in the United States until the mid-1980s. And they were actually pretty damn successful, even if they were a bit of a joke at the time. And, when they came out, they had to run with all of this sort of creative financing stuff. They were a lower-priced alternative to the Accords and the other Japanese cars that it competed with. I don't remember, what were they? The Hyundai Accents or whatever the hell they were back then, the little Hyundais. And essentially what they were designed to do was bury poor people in terrible financing and make a lot of money. And that did work out for them. And they've continued that theme to today. It's not the theme they talk about publicly, which is offering more for less. I mean, that has historically been what Hyundai is all about since it was released in the United States. I'm sure it's a very different thing in Korea. And that continued all the way through this car, this Hyundai Equus, which was designed, again, to take it to Mercedes, BMW, and mostly Lexus, while offering all kinds of equipment, features, similar build quality for a significantly less money than you would have to spend to get one from those companies. So anyway, there it is. But I tell you what I got to do. I have to pause for a second. I've got to dry myself off. I can't see dick. It's just absolutely horrible. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to start up again. So bear with me a minute. All right, so that's a little better. I mean, I've dried off by 30%, and at least I can see through my glasses again. But look, in the spirit of helping Andrew out, because, this is not really a review video. This is meant to help him sell this thing on whatever site he puts it on. I'm going to jump and leap right into the car. We'll take the Hyundai background for granted. There it is. You got a little bit of it. Honestly, if you're kind of a car nerd, it's worth the read. Hyundai does have a great history. But we're going to go diving into this thing and see what we got, and it should be very helpful to Andrew in his ambitions of selling the car. The first thing that I'm going to say about it is it looks like a 98 Buick LeSabre wearing a fake Rolex to the Indian casino or something. I mean, look at this front end treatment. I mean, from the very front, the headlights swoop up and point at the back. They kind of look like Grandpa Munster's eyebrows or something. I don't believe for a minute that hood ornament came standard on any American release car. Even Hyundai wouldn't have had the balls to do that. And when I Googled that, it does seem like you just buy, they're called KDM, which is a vomitorium, Korean domestic market. I have enough JDM. Now I have to deal with KDM as well, which is just disgusting. But anyway, what the hell are you going to do? Another offense, the thing looks like a bird. It actually looks like a decapitated bird, one that flew under a window too close, chopped its head off, and it's flapping around on the ground or something. That said, it's supposed to be a Pegasus, the winged horse, and it looks absolutely nothing like one. I mean, nothing. There is absolutely nothing in that hood ornament that looks like a Pegasus, but that's what it's supposed to be. And in fact, that's what the whole Equus thing is. Equus relating to a Greek word that talks about horses and donkeys and such. So, there it is. But they've made this car incredibly ornate, at least in the front end, from the tip of the headlights at the back forward. And did it work? I don't know. Not to me, it didn't. This one being an Ultimate Series Elantra, it has some sort of special grill in it with the vertical slats. You see it also has this dongle of a camera facing forward. I believe that helps it with the the smart cruise control or whatever it's got. And for some reason, you can also look at the cars around you through a camera when you're at a stoplight. I found that on the way to work this morning, the way to here this morning anyway. And the rest of the car, there it is. I mean, I'm not kidding about the Buick thing. I mean, it's got this whole sweep spear thing down the side. Look at the curvature of this line that's built into it. You've got this body line running down here, disappearing mid-rear door, and then swooping up and back. You know, maybe they were trying to go for an E or S-Class type thing, but I think they definitely nailed Buick on it. You know, being... Again, this thing's supposed to compete with the Lexus LS, and it's supposed to do it for a lot less money. If you look at it in terms of base price, it wasn't that much cheaper. I think the Lexus was like $6-7 grand more than this thing. But if you looked at it in terms of equipment, in terms of options, then the advantage became like 20 grand because this Hyundai had no options. It came in it had 2 trim levels. It had like the Premium or the Supreme, some kind of pizza sounding thing, and then the Ultimate like this one, which was a few thou more, and that was it. There was nothing you could tack on to either of those. You got one or the other. Both of them shared those same 19-inch chrome wheels, and that was all done to sort of simplify the process and keep the costs down and make the car be as competitive as it could be. Now, they were only going to try to sell like 3,000 or 4,000 of these things in the United States. The true target market for this car was South Korea, which I guess the people in South Korea are fiercely loyal to their domestic auto market, much unlike the Americans. And this car was going to replace their need to have things like S-Classes and 7 Series for the, you know, the moneyed elite that would drive around after making big business deals with other Asian conglomerates, and, you know, and they're driving around with whores in the back and cocaine and champagne and all that. They didn't have to do it in an S-Class anymore. They could use this very fancy Korean Cadillac, this Hyundai Equus. And that, you know, I guess it worked because it apparently sold quite well in Korea. They made a bulletproof version of it. In Korea, you could get an extended wheelbase version, which would have been nice, and we'll get into why as we go. But that, of course, never made it to these shores. You see these big trapezoidal taillights, trapezoidal twice pipes at the bottom, you know, looking good. You see the little sensors in the bumper. You got these ropey LED tail lamps, you know, again, all standard equipment in this premium class of cars. I will hand it to Hyundai for one thing. Cadillac and Lincoln, at least back in this era, would not dare to tread on this ground. I mean, you're talking about these storied car companies dating back over 100 years, and they won't build a premium car to take it to the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, but Hyundai will. So, you know, God bless them. I think they've got balls, and I can certainly appreciate that. Let's start inside the trunk. There's that stupid Pegasus badge again. I mean, give it a head. Something. It doesn't even have to be a horse head. Just give it a head. Alright, so anyway, you've got a power trunk opener and closer, which is great. Obviously, that's something you have to have. It's Friday, so I got donuts for the guys. I got my bag of crap in there. Apologize for all that, but what are you going to do? You've got a nice big trunk befitting of a livery service, which I guess they're... some of these, like, New York airport limo companies did buy Equises for that. You know, they were kind of cheap. They were easy to maintain. They gave you enough luxury to, you know, make a guy happy you were picking up. And they had to have a big trunk as a result. I think we have one of these roadkill hanging hooks, too, which is nice. So if you hit a squirrel or possum or something else on the road that you want to take home and cook up, you can hang him from this thing so he doesn't immediately soil your carpet, although you might want to put something underneath it like a bag to catch the drippings. I think it's a shame the infant retainment net isn't deployed. It's just curled up there. I didn't bother trying to install it myself, but I suppose it latches into all those hooks around there so you can, you know, you can stuff your infant under that and tie him down. And with the size of this trunk, he's going to be pretty happy in there, and I suppose enough air gets in. It's probably fine. Wouldn't worry too much about that. Down it goes. Have a look under the hood. This I don't like, by the way. That hood release feels really cheap to me, really tinny. I think they should have had some engineers working on the hood release to make it feel a little bit more high-end. But here it is. In this first incarnation of the Equus, I think this is called the Tau motor, the TAU motor. It's like 4.6 or 4.8. I don't immediately remember, and I don't really care. They replaced it like mid-2011, 2012 with a bigger, hopped-up V8. That this thing has like 385 horsepower, and they bumped it up to 429 to match the Mercedes. But it is what it is, and it's a pretty damn good motor. It came right out of the Genesis, by the way. They had to, I think they raised the horsepower by like 10 because it was now going to be in a more expensive car. But the V8 from the earlier Genesis was being asked to push this, and it's almost 5,000 pounds, this car. It was, you know, about a quarter ton or more heavier than the Genesis. So despite that, it seems to move the car okay, and, you know, even if it's far from the best in its class in terms of acceleration, it's adequate. The prop rods, or, you know, hood struts, are kind of weird and inboard. I've never really seen that before. If your mechanic's working on this thing, they're going to get directly in his way and piss him off. But, you know, pissed off mechanic is not exactly the rarest thing in the world. I've really never met one who's cheerful in any way. And there it is. And that's made it to some kind of a, you know, 7-speed normal shifting transmission that does fine. They came out with an all-wheel drive version later, and there it is. But this one, anyway, it's the I'm going to call it the 4.8, and it's a V8, and it's rear-wheel drive, which is good. There was some sort of Korean Equus, which came out in 2000, never made it to these shores, but that was based on some kind of Mitsubishi platform that was front-wheel drive. This one was finally Hyundai's own platform, and they were clever enough to make it rear-wheel drive, so God bless them for that. There's that stupid hood ornament. All right, so I've got the keys in my pocket. I'll look in the back seat. Yeah, okay, I'm going to look on this side. So, being the Ultimate, this thing is meant to be a chauffeur-driven car, although not on this driver's side of the car. But it's not, the premium one is kind of for the guy who wants to drive himself. The Ultimate is more for the Korean customer who wants to be driven around, and God bless him. The seats do recline. Except only when the ignition's on. And you do have well, here's the thing. Why I think they should, I mean, at least for the Ultimate model, they should have brought the long wheelbase thing here. When the seats recline, the bottom cushion goes forward. Well, I mean, unless you're Hervé Villachez or Mary Lou Retton, where the hell are your feet going to go? I mean, I know... Look, without getting into any kind of cultural stereotypes, I know there are not a lot of Korean basketball players. There are probably a few, but there's not many. But even then, I mean, you'd have to be like 5'5", with really tiny legs to feel like you have enough leg room in this thing. There's only enough leg room if you leave it the way it is now. And like a 6'2" Canadian is only going to be barely happy, and I don't even think he's going to get any thigh support, so it's a little bit strange. I mean, the interior dimensions of the car are not bad. They're on par with the other cars in class, but somehow the other cars in class have designed it to have much better rear leg room. You've got, again, a 2-seat rear area with this Ultimate with the big center console. I'm going to go, don't worry, I'm going to get over to the other side later. This is quick on this side. You got your sunscreen there in the back and nice supply leather. I mean, you know, again, if they had to use good fit and finish, which they did, they had to use good materials, which they did. They used these Mercedes-style metaphoric seat switches, which are fine, and everything is up to snuff enough to be competitive within the class, which is all that it had to do. But that said, there just doesn't feel like there's anything super special about it. It's just, you know, here is our version of what a high-end premium car should be, using leathers that, you know, are good enough, wood that's good enough, and everything else that's good enough, but we're not going to make it super special. It does, of course, keyless entry. I've got a couple of keys here. Where are they here? Yeah, they're big. They've got this stupid Pegasus Equus logo on them. Andrew has a SeaWorld keychain. Looks like the little penguins have bling on them, which is suitable for this car. And I think, hasn't that been shut down by like the ASPCA or something? They were torturing dolphins, or I don't know. Anyway, maybe they're still going. You can lock the car like that, keyless go style, and open it. How? You have to push the button again. No. How the hell do you get back in this thing? What, do you have to wait for a minute? Oh, there we go. I was going to say that's really Kmart, but I suppose they don't expect you to unlock it and open it right back up. Again, the same thing with the door panels. I do like that this is kind of stitched tight leather. The real wood is nice. It does remind me of the Lexus wood more than the European stuff. The switch gear all looks nice and Mercedes-like. This is all like a direct copy of Mercedes, and it works fine. You get a nice little pocket here, good place to put a weapon or bag of drugs. You've got it's got some kind of very fancy Lexicon 800-watt stereo or something. Again, I haven't followed high-end audio in a while, so I'm not completely familiar with Lexicon, but apparently it's a pretty good name. The seat controls, it has massage seats, and I think this is kind of a silly place for the Switch, but there it is. It has two different modes, and it feels a lot like those sharper image chairs I used to sit in. Let me get my seatbelt on, then we're going to fire this thing up. We're not going to go yet. I'm going to leave it running, and then I'm going to hop in the back seat, but we're going to start here for now. So to fire it up, we hit start stop. The gauges do that whole backlit Lexus thing where and then you've got the Equus logo, that stupid logo comes up and looks at you. Where the cluster was black, and then all the lights would come up from the rear and, you know, light it up for you. But there it is. And it's a pretty decent instrument cluster. It's just all you need. You've got your water temp to the left, you got your fuel to the right, your tack, and your speedo, and then a little driver information center above. And for you cars and bids guys, there you can see 63,000 miles on the clock. You've got a wood and leather multifunction wheel. Again, this is what you expect at this level. It's got nice leather stitching in the airbag thing, and then this decapitated bird looking at you. Over here, you've got voice command, so you can tune your radio or nav with that. On the column, God, over there, there's your heated steering wheel control. We're here, and then this is the joystick to do the tilt and telescopic, and I presume that all works with the keys and the on the memory seats. You've got parking control off. Again, if you're in Dunkin' Donuts and it's beeping, you turn that off. Vehicle stability management, traction control, you can turn that off. This button does nothing. It does not get turned off. I mean, I tried to turn it off and do burnouts, and it immediately kicked back on. So I have no idea why the stability management and traction control buttons are even there. They're completely irrelevant. AFLS, I can't remember. American Federation of Las Dapsos, or I guess I got that wrong. But anyway, I have no idea what AFL. It's probably the lighting system is what it is, where it steers the thing around corners or something. Auto hold, that's going to be when you're in drive. You can press that, then you can take your foot off the brake, and the car will still sit there. The electronic parking brake. You got a trunk release, and you got a pretty nice, easy dimmer. Far easier than what they put in the Mercedes. Much easier to find anyway. Very nice leather top to the dashboard. All hand-stitched looking. I will say I can appreciate that. And then expanses of Alcantara headliner from the front to the back. And of course the prerequisite power sunroof you have to have in one of these things. Also a very nice Korean iDrive. We're going to press enter to accept. Here we've got satellite radio going. Madonna, you know, what could you really say about me? Hang it up, Madonna. Enjoy your damn money. Go to a beach somewhere, get some more plastic surgery, have a zipper running up the back of your head if you want to. But for God's sake, man, take it easy. You've earned a respite. You really have. You really have. Anyway, this is, I don't know if this is touchscreen, by the way. Yeah, it's not. Nothing's touching when I touch it. I'm just putting fingerprints on it. But anyway, you've got all these direct passenger buttons, direct buttons to look at this screen, which is fine and reminds me of the Lexus quite a bit, actually. This, I think it's all designed to be an LS competitor, and it does a pretty good job of that. But anyway, here's your climate control. Here's the little clock, analog clock that any luxury car has to have. We've got sun coming in, so let me back up a bit and see if I can get some shadows back. There we go. And there you see the rear camera, by the way. There's for CDs. Push that forward, you get an ashtray. So I guess the Koreans are still smoking. You get this little Lexus gated shifter, a Korean gated shifter, Lexus style. Oh, and here's the front cameras, by the way. That's when I press this button here, which looks like a car with, you know, swoopy funnels on the front of it. I had no idea what it was, so I turned it on, and it turns on whenever you're stopped. It doesn't come on when you're driving, because they don't want you, I guess, to drive using the camera. But when you're at a traffic light, for whatever reason, you get to see these that forward-looking camera. Get that back, and there you could shift manually if you wanted to. We can turn on our cool seats. That's nice stuff. This will run the rear sunscreen. You can see that going down. Put that back up. Again, your iDrive, or whatever the Koreans call it, with direct access buttons. You've got your AM, FM, you've got your satellite, your disc. This is a giant back button. Here's your map. And honestly, I don't know... Like, I don't know much about Korean culture, but honestly, they really don't seem to know much about maps. This is not helpful to me. I mean... It doesn't even have depth charts in the ocean, so how the hell am I going to know where to put my super tanker? I mean, this is not what I would call a very detailed map when you hit the button. It's putting me somewhere on the tip of Florida, which is true, but I've got more of the Atlantic Ocean and Gulf of Mexico than I do. We're even going into the Pacific. We've got 3 different bodies of water in this thing. See if we can spin that down a little bit. Yeah, here we go. Now we're zooming in. Looks like some kind of 80s thermonuclear war video game to me. Anyway, there is the navigation, and I'm sure it all works fine. Over here, you've got your hot and cool seats. I'm going to turn my massage on while we're sitting here. That'll be nice. What the hell is this? It's hard to find those. There it is. Anyway, you got cool seats for the passenger. This thing does have an air suspension, which... you know, works fine. The sport button, which is imperceptible, I pressed that and I tried to do sporty things and nothing sporty happened. You got cup holders there, you got a little leather center console with what appears to be an auxiliary plug, and you got a 12-volt outlet. That's all very nice. There's under there, it looks like we got some USB stuff, so also a nice little place to put a small handgun. One thing that's interesting about this is I think they came with iPad or iPod owner's manuals, which we'll get into. There's the compass and the mirror, your home link, little place to store your Elvis sunglasses. I mean, if you're going to match the front end of your car, you better have some diamond studded. And okay, well, there's a book set, which is odd because I really did think this thing had an iPod. And we also have what appears to be, oh, come to daddy. Wow. Okay, Andrew has stepped up his game. Since we did the S600, he had some kind of little fecky range gun in there that looked like he paid a couple $100 for it. This is an IMI AE50 Action Express Desert Eagle Magnum 50 cal. Man, this is a great road rage handgun to keep in the glove box. I really have to hand it to Andrew. Kudos, my friend. That is the one to take out when the chips are down and when that guy at the traffic light has really pissed you off. God bless him. So anyway, there it is. And, good for you, Andrew. I'm going to leave the car running, and we're going to go hop in the, what I would call the, it's beeping because I have the keys. This is the, oh God, let me pull this car forward. It's directly in the sun. Anyway, the words I was stumbling over there was limousine rear, which again is more meant for the Korean market than here. It's just a feature that's really kind of silly here, but whatever. I think it'll be in the shade now. A 50 AE. Way to go, Andrew. All right, so, you know, this is not your standard Elantra with this setup. What you've got here, and I'm going to get into why it's kind of silly, by the way, but I think it also matches what the Lexus LS had at the time. So I'm going to sit in here. Have my feet under the rear front seat as much as I can. Let me close this door so we get the full effect, and let's see what we got. So we've got a screen facing us. Because I'm in command of the driver, I guess I can change this around to different modes. I can. We can go to AM, so I can listen to some good AM. Discs, auxiliary, I can change the climate, the settings. That just gives me the mode. You've got this little control panel here, which looks like something from the Starship Enterprise. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn, I can move the front seat up and lean it forward. It takes a little bit. Oh, look at that. And now my footrest is coming up and forcing my feet into the bottom of the front seat. So here we go. And now, this is my point. Now, if I stretch my feet out as far as I am not a big guy at all. And my heels are digging into the map pocket on the front seat. Who fits in this thing? This is why they should have brought the long wheelbase version over here. This is just silly. If I go here like this, what's the point of this? Now my thighs aren't being supported. How am I supposed to be a wealthy Korean banker without supported thighs? It just doesn't make any damn sense at all. But anyway, maybe they'll make up for it with a massage seat, which they do. All right, here we go. We have a remote control, which controls our massage. All right, so I've got power on with the massage. We're going to go with mode 2. This is doing nothing. Oh, no, it is. Okay. Look at this force and speed. God, you have to be Stephen Hawking to figure this thing out. Vibration. Oh, my God. We've got... Oh. Wow. Okay, upper, back, and low. Can you have them both at the same time? No, yeah, I guess that's mode 1 or 2. Okay, this makes up for a lot of the footroom shed. Right now, I have, it feels like there's some sort of a DeWalt bandsaw buried under the seat. It's vibrating the hell out of me. I think it's loud enough you might even hear it. And I'm getting all these magic fingers digging into my back. So that is actually quite nice, I have to say. Man, what I would do if I had this car is I would remove the passenger seat completely, and then we'd be talking. We'd be into something there. Oh, God, that's nice. God, I could just sit in here for a while. This would be a really great space to set up an Asian massage in. Anyway, over here you've got cup holders, very nice. And look at this, we got a built-in refrigerator, so there's a nice stuff. You know, you keep your bag of pot in there, it's going to keep it nice and fresh. Of course, you could also put beer or whatever else you need when you're driving around. And there's the cool box. What is this? Pull. Oh, that's, you know, this is actually hieroglyphics telling you how to open the center console. And do they really need to take up this? Couldn't we even just let it be intuitive? I mean, what kind of morons can start a banking conglomerate, but they need this decal to know how to open their center console? That makes absolutely no sense to me. You got more stuff back here, more little storage compartments, because not only the driver needs a big handgun, but probably the guy in the back too, in case your driver gets capped. And here we are, Motley Crew. All right, how do we get that going on? Okay, so this isn't that bad. The only modification that I would make is removing that passenger seat, and then everything would be golden. I'm gonna get that back down. I think if I keep it pressed, the front seat will finally return to... No, it won't. How do I do that? Oh, now it's going the other way. Well, now I'm reclining back. And there it comes. Okay, so you can run the whole thing from here. It also has little buttons on the side, so I love those. So if you're the backseat passenger and there's somebody actually sitting up there, you can fuck with them by running those buttons on the side of the seat. Put them right up into the dashboard before they know what's going on. All right, so there it is. I have to say, this is probably the nicest Elantra I've ever been in. Well, let me turn off this ridiculous thing. And we're going to hop out and go for a spin. In fact, I'm going to pause it for a minute while I get my shit together. So hold on one moment. Oh, before I do, look at that. We got cocaine mirrors here that whoever detailed the car didn't bother to clean off. All right, there it is. See you in a sec. All right, so away we go. Let's see how this thing drives. You know, I mean, it's V8 power, there's no question about that, but it's not, you know, by the acceleration times that I looked up last night, it kept up in terms of acceleration and skid pad and all of that braking, but it was pretty much near the back of the pack in its competitors, which the back of the pack is actually not a bad place to be at the time, given the amount of engineering and time that the other makers had to put into their cars. So you actually have to hand it to Hyundai for getting something that came that close. You know, really, again, this is something Cadillac and Lincoln didn't even want to try. We've got an EDA system. There it is, the EDDA. That's the electronic drunk driving assistance. I think, what do they call it? Lane departure warning system. Well, I'm at a red light, otherwise we'll try that when we get going again. It shuts off when you get to a stop. And this is where this camera comes on, I think. Yeah. I mean, what the hell is the point of that? So when you stop, on comes the front-facing camera. Okay. There it is. I mean, I could just look out the windshield. But anyway, you see that ridiculous hood ornament looking at. The seat is positioned kind of high for the dash, which is nice. So even for a little guy like me, I have a pretty good view out the front. They've made all the windows, you know, sort of soundproof or whatnot, which works well. There are complaints about tire noise in this car. That was one of the early complaints, and I think that's probably true. All right, this is funny. All right, so here you see I've got the lane departure thing. Watch this. It's pissed off. Now it's really pissed off. Ah! And when it's really pissed off, it tugs your seatbelt hard. Like really hard. Like a, you know, hey, fucker, get back in the lane right now, you drunk bastard. Or it's really shocking, and it took me by surprise this morning. So you got that going for you. When you fire this thing up, and I wish I'd done it, I did that too quick. It makes like what sounds like, it gives you the little Hyundai logo and a prancing Pegasus, which has a head on it, unlike the emblems and ornaments, and gives you like shut up, and gives you the bumper music from the Today Show. So it's all very posh. I mean, there is absolutely 0 point in me doing any kind of a big drive in this thing, because when I have the sport button on, which I do, it really doesn't feel sporty, and when I turn off all the driving aids, they stay on anyway. I think they're just dead buttons with LEDs that make you feel like you've done something. But it is comfortable to drive. The seats don't have much lateral support, which seems kind of strange. It would have been nice if they'd given you some bolsters or something. It really feels like the car is set up for a guy who's 5'5" and 300 pounds. But otherwise, it's, you know, it's good enough. I mean, they are comfy, and I am getting a massage, so that does count for something. No passenger massage, so those passengers are going to be out of luck. Obviously, in the back seat with all of that, other than the footroom. So if you have any like Canadians who lost their legs, they are going to be the happiest legless Canadians on earth, with the super vibrating massage seat and reclining rump stuff and refrigerators and all that. I mean, they are going to be chipper beyond description, and God bless them. But again, you know, they better remove their prosthetic legs and put them in the back, because otherwise they're just going to scuff the back of the front seat, or worse yet, break your toes underneath it. Well, I guess it's not going to break toes in a prosthetic leg. Let's hammer it just for fun. It's got a little bit of pep. A little bit. Yeah, and there it hates the way I keep my lane. I'm telling you, you have to appreciate the way these companies have assisted with drunk drivers. So there it is. I'm gonna cut it off there. There's no talk about Audi Europa, because this is an Andrew Cars and Bids thing, and then I'll give you a little interstate run at the end, and we'll go from there. You know, the steering's fine, the brakes are fine. The shifting's fine. It's, you know, nothing special and nothing to detract. So it just does what it's supposed to do. Good enough. All right. Thanks for having a look. Really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for helping me get to this point on YouTube with all the subscribers, despite the terrible, terrible content. You guys are the best. Thank you very much, and I'll see you with the next one. Take care.